We're in the 14th Street, 8th Avenue station. We're on the platform for the A, C, and E. Those were A and C trains that just left. There are several sculptures here by Richard Otterness. This is one of them. This is also the end of the line for the L in Manhattan. Good morning, everyone. It's March 2nd. It's a Wednesday. We are at 15th Street and 8th Avenue in an area called Chelsea Market. This looks like a former industrial building that's been converted. It's a Wednesday. It's a very mild day. It's supposed to go up to 50 degrees today. I think it's in the low 40s right now. So on this walk, we are going to explore Chelsea Market, the Meatpacking District, and maybe a little surprise at the end. I don't think I've ever seen a no parking sign like this before. usually when there's a non-conforming parking sign, it's because local business improvement district has designed the sign to its own aesthetics and gets the approval of the city DOT. Never seen a Starbucks Reserve Roastery before. Shall we take a look? How does a Starbucks Reserve Roastery differ from just a normal Starbucks coffee shop? So this area goes by a couple different names at least. Chelsea Market, Meatpacking. Let's check out Chelsea Market. So Chelsea Market has many different stalls within, different food vendors, restaurants. Let's look. Hold on. This is a listing of all the merchants in Chelsea Market. And look at the top left, New York One News. Because the New York One indeed has its studios inside this building. There are also some other enterprises located in this building that we can't mention. How cryptic is that? Not open yet, but Lilac Chocolates has its factory in Industry City in Brooklyn. They have the production area visible through a big windowed wall. Oh, here's an interesting looking sign. Private elevator for Disney streaming services. Anyway, Lilac Chocolate, if you're ever in an industry city and get a chance to look through the window, it often reminds me of the I Love Lucy episode where Lucy and Ethel are in the chocolate factory. It's just a lot more orderly. So again, I guess we're a little early for most of the food vendors here. Here we have breakfast burritos. This is Creamline American Classics, and Ronnie Brook Dairy has its milk labeled Creamline. I don't know if there's any connection there. I'm not aware of any drought emergency in the city right now. I think that's a legacy sign. Hull and Pistol. Interesting name. Lobster place. I wonder what they sell here. The Donuttery was featured in a Times article years ago listing their critics' 10 favorite donut locations in the city. This Donuttery produces miniature plain donuts, like 6 to an order. Restrooms. Good to know. Oh, look at these fans. Sarah Beth's, with at least 2 other locations in the city. A sign that's trying to look like the subway tiles in an I&D station. Del Gelato. I first encountered them in a push cart on the plaza of Lincoln Center, and that's where I had my first olive oil gelato. It was delicious. Before going to see a performance of South Pacific at the Lincoln Center Theater. This is a photo of the High Line, which begins nearby. Another photo of the High Line. This one, judging by the age of the cars, shows the High Line when it was still an active freight railroad line. And this is an illustration of the building that we just walked through. You can see it says National Biscuit Company. Hopefully you can see it. This was a factory of the National Biscuit Company, or Nabisco. And here are some photos from when it was a factory. Delivery truck. A photo of the 9th Avenue L from 1915. We are going to exit at 9th Avenue. Well, I take that back. We entered at 9th Avenue. There was no L there. Other photos from the era, including railroad boxcars sharing the street with horses and horse-drawn wagons before the High Line was built. The High Line was built in 1930s. It was featured in a 1936 article in National Geographic, which highlighted progress on American railroads. When we exited 10th Avenue, you can see here, this is a portion of the High Line, but it's a remnant that's not part of the High Line Park. It's just a vestige of the structure. I have no idea what that tall chimney-like structure is on top of the High Line. What its function was it just dumped there after the High Line was abandoned? That bus was going to Riverbank State Park, which is in West Harlem. That'll be the subject of a different walk. Riverbank Park is also called by many area residents Sewage Park, for reasons we'll explain when we go on our walk. And here you can see the High Line was originally constructed to go into this building, but the entrance into the building has been bricked over, and hopefully you can see that those bricks are indeed a lighter shade than all the other exterior bricks on this building. Another vestige of the High Line right here. there we have the walkable part of the High Line, which actually begins here at 14th Street and runs up to 34th Street, a little over a mile. It ends near Penn Station, or I should say the new Moynihan Train Hall at Penn Station, and also runs through a portion of Hudson Yards. So, oh, there we go. Okay. And you can see above the green sidewalk shed the letters NBC. It's not for the broadcasting network. That's National Biscuit Company, which of course was shortened to Nabisco. And now, and I think that, well, I don't know exactly what Nabisco products were made here. This says Marine and Aviation, Pier 57. You see the flag of the Department of Marine and Aviation of the City of New York. There is no longer a Department of Marine and Aviation. It ceased to exist around 1975 during the city's fiscal crisis, when they had to reduce the size of city government. The Department of Marine and Aviation was part of what used to be called a super agency, which was the Transportation Administration. In 1975, during the fiscal crisis, the Transportation Administration was eliminated. So it was elimination of like the top level of bureaucracy, and one of the departments within the Transportation Administration eventually became the Department of Transportation, and Marine and Aviation was abolished altogether. It also said that this was Pier 57, and so this is City Winery, and it's a venue. And it was built in 1952. Now we're looking across the river, and there's a New York Waterway ferry. New York Waterway connects the west side of Manhattan to several points in New Jersey. And now we have New York's newest attraction, Little Island. It was just completed in the last year, just opened to the public. In its first few months, you had to get time tickets for admission during certain hours. It's free, but I think they relaxed all those requirements, and now we can just walk on there. So I want to look at the remnants of what used to be active piers here. So why is this called Pier 57? I don't know. But a rule of thumb in the west side of Manhattan is you subtract 40 from the pier number and you get the approximate cross street. So subtracting 40 from 57 gets you 17th Street, which is close enough. All right. There you go. The entrance to Little Island. So this was privately developed. The primary driving force behind this is Barry Diller, a media executive. He, I believe, was the CEO of IAC, Interactive Corporation, which has its headquarters across the West Side Highway and up a few blocks from here. And that's an interesting building in itself, the IAC headquarters. It was designed by Frank Gehry, and it looks different from pretty much every other surrounding building. And here are the vestiges of old piers and the support structure for the island that the Times described as mushrooms sprouting from the river. Magic load-bearing mushrooms. I've never been here before, so we'll be exploring this for the first time together. Restrooms straight ahead, good to know. Okay. Here's the New York City NYC ferry. It's unusual to see them on the Hudson River. I don't think there's a ferry route on the Hudson River for NYC Ferry. And again, this is Pier 57. You can see the Chelsea Market. Here, you get a sense of the development that that the High Line has helped to foster. And in the distance, the tallest buildings in the distance are part of Hudson Yards. like the bench design. And there's a performance venue here. The buildings across the river are Hoboken, New Jersey. We'll get a little better view in a minute. Okay. More spinning art. Spirograph. It's a little hazy. It should come as no surprise that it took years to clear all the bureaucratic and regulatory hurdles to begin construction. And there were several times during the last 10 years when it looked like this project would never take off. But it did. Let's see if we can get the Empire State Building peeking up in the back. And here we are, reaching the summit of Little Island, the highest point on Little Island. A tanker going up the Hudson River. Across the river, if you can see kind of Gothic looking clock tower with big red and white letters underneath saying Erie Lackawanna, and it looks like a ferry terminal, which it is. It was built a long time ago by the Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western Railroad. It was their main terminus for trains beginning in Hoboken and going to the Midwest and West and Upstate New York. It says Erie Lackawanna because the Lackawanna Railroad merged with the Erie sometime in the 60s so that both of them could avoid further bankruptcies. You would depart your train and take a ferry to Manhattan. And it's still a major terminal, but not for long distance trains. It's the New Jersey Transit Hoboken Terminal. And New York Waterway now provides the ferry service between Hoboken Terminal and Lower Manhattan and Midtown Manhattan. Or you can take a PATH train from Hoboken, from just underneath Hoboken Station to Midtown at 33rd Street or to the World Trade Center. We will explore Hoboken some other time. And I guess no park, whether public or private, would be complete without a rat trap. Let's check out a few other things here. Again, the Glade and restrooms. Okay, so here are the restrooms. Very nice. Very nice restrooms for a park. There's construction taking place at the next pier south of here. I don't know what that is or what it's eventually going to be. I think this structure is a fireboat house for the New York City Fire Department. That is the most pleasant reading "Do not enter" sign I've ever seen. Thank you for not entering. Keep out. This is the Standard Hotel, which straddles the High Line. And when the High Line first opened in 2009, 8, something like that, one of the complaints of people walking on the High Line were that guests in the Hotel Standard were undressing in their floor-to-ceiling windows and were visible to walkers on the High Line. This is the Whitney Museum of American Art. It used to be located uptown on Madison and 77th. It moved down here 10 years ago or less and is greatly expanded. If you don't mind.
Vai lá. Só que se solta.
Excellent. It looks like the opening credits of Twilight Zone Season 3. There are a lot of decorative lights installed. It'd be nice to come back here sometime after dark. All right. Can you see this person in the white spacesuit walking up the steps? Who is he? Why is he wearing that costume? It's a small step for a man. I assume these are going to be food stands during the warmer weather. At least I hope they'll be. We're going to exit Little Island now. Under the mushroom canopy. What is this iron structure straight ahead of us with the arch on top? I will answer that question. So, don't know if you can see in this light, but just below the pigeons on this cross beam here is the very faded painting. In fact, it's two layers of paint, one covering the other. I think the more recent one says Cunard lines, and below it, and especially if you can look all the way to the right, you may see the word star as the last word on the right, and immediately to the left of star are remnants of the word white. So White Star is the line that built and operated the Titanic. And the Titanic's maiden voyage was scheduled to end here at this pier in 1912. And if you've ever seen the movie Titanic, and spoiler alert, the ship never made it here. So the remnants of this pier were, as you can see, demolished many years ago. We're going to walk north a ways. So this promenade that we're on now, while it was upgraded in connection with building Little Island, but there is a waterfront promenade, Hudson River Park, and it extends basically all the way from the Battery in Lower Manhattan to, well, this path runs continuously at least to 125th Street. And when you get to 125th Street, you have to go down to street level. You have to cross a few streets in order to continue going north on a path. And indeed, it is Little Island. It says open daily from 6 a.m. It doesn't say how late it's open. And again, it's open to the public, but it's not a public park. It's not a New York City park. Our lone aquatic wildlife here. Oh, two of them. Okay. And a fireboat, a little fireboat, plying the Hudson River going north. By the way, back at Pier 17 here, City Winery. What was Pier 17 more recently? Until about 20 years ago, this was converted from a shipping pier to a bus depot. It was the Hudson River Depot. buses that serve some of the west side of Manhattan used to originate here. The depot moved 20 years ago to an abandoned Greyhound storage and maintenance facility in Midtown on the West 40s at 11th Avenue. The name of the depot was changed from Hudson River Depot to Michael Quill Depot. Michael Quill was the president of the Transport Workers Union in the 60s. He led his union members to a strike on January 1st of 1966, Mayor John Lindsay's first day in office. I think I remember that because the strike violated state law, that Michael Quill actually had to spend a little time in jail. I'm not sure about that. When Time magazine covered the 1966 transit strike, they quoted Michael Quill referring to Mayor Lindsay as a pipsqueak and an ass, with exclamation points. This is the beginning of the Chelsea Piers Entertainment and Sports Complex. We could walk on this promenade and get close to the water, but we're not. So this also houses studios. At one time, Law and Order used the studio in here for its regular standing sets, like the courtroom and the precinct office. I mentioned Barry Diller before as the head of IAC. This is the IAC building. It was designed by Frank Gehry. It's one of two Frank Gehry buildings in New York. The other one is a high-rise residential building with a public school in the base near City Hall. We'll get a closer look at that building in a minute. The tallest building in the distance, Hudson Yards. Don't know if you can see it from here, but the plane sticking out of the building near the top of the pyramid is an open-air observation deck. It is advertised as the highest open-air observation deck in the Western Hemisphere. As I said, the High Line fostered a lot of development. Trying to get across the street. That's not going to be that easy. Let the bikes go. I don't think this actually works. It's just there to frustrate pedestrians. By the way, what was Pier 59 and Pier 59 Studios before they became developed as part of Chelsea Piers? This was used by the Department of Sanitation to store sanitation trucks for their Auxiliary Field Force, or AFF. All right. And here we have a typical New York conundrum. Someone who didn't stop in time for the red light, and now he's doesn't know what to do next. There we go. All right. So, again, the IAC building, designed by Frank Gehry. Night, when you drive past here, there are captivating video displays in the main lobby here, which can be very distracting when you're driving on the West Side Highway at night. And can't really see in this lighting, but there are huge video screens inside displaying flowers. Anyway, I think that's all we're going to be able to see now. So, we're walking south now on the West Side Highway, which is also called 11th Avenue at this point. Well, the street sign says 11th Avenue. I think everyone would refer to this as the West Side Highway. And here's what the building will look like. The sign in the median is pointing to the meat market being the next left. The tour bus with 2 tourists on board. On our left is the Chelsea Market, near where we began our walk. Let's see if we can cross. Excellent. And this is apparently part of Hudson River Park too. I never knew that. The High Line. And let's see the meat market. Little island across the highway. A tour bus with 10 people on top. Genesis house. Where's Exodus house? And let's take a last look at the entrance to the pier for the White Star Line, which is where the Titanic would have docked had it reached its intended destination. Straight ahead is the Whitney, Or as it says at the top of the building, Whitney, Whitney, Whitney. I have no idea what this is. Or why it's mounted in such a way that you need to climb this ladder to access it. I don't know if it has anything to do with the city's water system. Or this. This is a speed camera. That's recognizable. And just as the sign says, Gansevoort Market Meat Center. We are at or near Gansevoort Street, although I don't see a street sign anywhere. And it appears that this is still an active meatpacking facility or meat distribution facility. Distributors of Murray's all natural chicken, so there you go. Any other active meat businesses here in the Meatpacking District? In the district formerly known as Meatpacking, still known as the Meatpacking District. Just not a lot of actual meatpacking. Here, Weichsel beef. John Williams, veal and lamb. Any relation to the composer of Star Wars? I said this might be Gansevoort Street, but it's not. It's Little West 12th Street. Don't know if there's a bigger West 12th Street. Let's see, will he stop? He did. No, not really. That wasn't a good stop. So we'll just, for future reference. There we go. Again. Doesn't seem to be a lot of meatpacking activity actually taking place, even for the active so-called meatpacking companies. Oh, and here in the back, quality veal. We'll cut around the other side. And this is the beginning of the High Line, the southern end. I think during the pandemic, this was the only beginning to the High Line. They had restricted travel on the High Line to one direction, like northbound, I think. So you couldn't enter, say, at 34th Street and walk south. So if the map is visible, it shows the High Line. Doesn't show a "you are here," but we are at the bottom of the map, and it goes, in fact, the part of the map beyond the green line that shows kind of a hashed continuation up to the end at 34th Street is in fact in service now, or it was a couple of years ago. So we're going to walk past the Whitney's main entrance. Let's see what we have here. Day's End by David Hammonds. Sounds ominous. And there's an elevator entrance to the High Line, but it's closed. I'm guessing the Whitney, like most other museums for now, is requiring people to make reservations online for timed tickets. But here they're providing an option, if you don't have a ticket already, to purchase one here. Thank you. I was only in here once since the museum located here. To look at a Grant Wood exhibit several years ago. Donors, anonymous. See, I didn't know this. Founded for artists by Gertrude Vanderbilt Whitney. So now I want to see what her relationship is to, say, the Cornelius Vanderbilt family. All right. But before we leave here, I must point this out. You see the end of the High Line structure on the left, but if we look across the street, we can see in this part of the building across the street where the scaffolding is hold some workers there, that the High Line used to continue and entered that building right where those workers are. looks like the gift shop. Again, there's the Standard Hotel. So remember, if you're staying there, people on the High Line can see you. Now let's see the other side of the meat market buildings. Graffiti on this side, and all these roll gates are closed, but the names of food companies are still, well, one company, Interstate Foods, is still on the building, and Esposito Meat Market, a pork store. Ooh, chicken cutlets. According to the box, those chicken thighs were from Maryland. So, this is a colorful way to end. We're just about the end of today's walk. I think the market, this building may be owned by the city. Like markets on, well, market on Arthur Avenue, one near Yankee Stadium. But it's, someone should really clean up this building. All right. I think this is going to be the end, without sounding morbid about it, but let's look at one last look at the pier where the Titanic was to have landed. And if you want to catch the nearest train from here, just walk east to 8th Avenue and you'll be at the 8th Avenue stop of the A, C, E, and L. So thank you for spending this time with me. I'm Infrared, and this is what you've been watching.